Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Kelsey. I'm the creator of Bite Size Ancient History, and I studied classics at undergraduate level and then Egyptology at masters. So I'm here to talk all things ancient world. Specifically, today we're going to be discussing episode 4 of Kaos and if we think it's accurate to ancient Greek mythology. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future content. If you're a regular here, you know it's taken a while to get to episode 4 of Kaos. I'm really sorry. We found our way back around. I also sound gross. I have like cold or flu. I don't know. I'm generally feeling fine. I just don't sound great. But I wanted to make sure that you got this video. As I say every time, I'm not here to say whether it's good or bad TV because it's not accurate. I'm just here to use it as a learning tool so that we can learn a little bit more about Greek mythology. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start off with a little bit of a plot summary of the episode. So it starts with Jeff Goldblum as Zeus shooting all of his ball boys, his manservants, because he wants to know who stole his watch. Hera is getting concerned that he's killing all of these people and calls up Poseidon, who we know she's been having an affair with, to ask if he knows who's taken it. We then get a little bit of a throwback with Prometheus before he was imprisoned, started being tortured. And we see that he's having a romantic relationship with a man called Charon. Prometheus tells Charon that he's going to meet somebody important and he needs to promise Prometheus that he's going to protect him at all costs. How does he know who this person is? He says that there will be a clear mark. And then Prometheus kills him. Pretty shocking. Cut back to Orpheus trying to find his way into the underworld to get back Eurydice. And he is also with the man from the couple that are trying to get back their child that they think was taken too early due to sickness. Dionysus is helping them, and we find out that the entrance to the underworld is via, giant dumpsters. Hades and Persephone are in the underworld, and Persephone is arguing with him, saying that Hades needs to reveal to Zeus the fact that they have lost a soul. Hades is saying, no, we can handle the situation ourselves. We don't need to involve him. Caeneus, despite not being allowed to, is playing with his dog Photis and decides to let him off the lead, and he immediately runs away. While he's chasing the dog, he finds Nax, and he tells him, we have to help them. He's clearly really distressed, and Caeneus is trying to help him and saying you need to go through the frame. But interestingly, Nax says he's already gone through. Charon, who in the present day is now working in the underworld, finds the dog Photis and is shouting after Caeneus. So Caeneus goes over to him, and when he turns back around, Nax is gone. Still trapped in the underworld, Eurydice has now been promoted to be one of the divers, and there's going to be a little party that evening to celebrate all of the new divers, because there seems to be a massive push right now to create them from Hades and Persephone, probably because of the missing soul. Dionysus in the world of the living has been left to look after Orpheus's cat, and he's chilling, he's loving looking after a cat. And then Poseidon calls him up to be like, dude, did you take his watch? You need to do something about this. So he meets up with him in the aquarium, naturally, as Poseidon, and he's like, what are you doing? You said you want to earn his trust, like why, what are you doing? And Dionysus is like, nah, I did something good. Like, I'm gonna make the first mortal ever go to the underworld and regain a soul. And Poseidon's like, why would that help you regain trust or build a reputation with Zeus? You're acting like a child. What are you doing? Get the watch back. Shut up. They're gonna die anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just go get the watch. Of course, meanwhile, Orpheus and the father of the child that they're trying to get back, Anatole, are still trying to find their way properly into the underworld. They need to cross the river, and Charon appears with his little boat and he offers them a lift. Dionysus in the mortal world, I'm sorry, there's a lot of flip-flopping in this episode between what's going on. There's just a lot to process. Actually wasn't one of my favourite episodes, I'm gonna be honest. I hope it gets better again. But Dionysus, back in the mortal world, just goes to a pawn shop to find a watch that looks similar to Zeus's, and then pretends to find it on his way to visit him. And he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have killed all those people. Thanks, dude. Back in the boat, with Orpheus and Anatole, they meet a creature called the Scylla casually in the river, and Charon is like, I can only take one of you across, like that's the rule. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to fight? One of you going to volunteer? Ultimately, they end up fighting, and this is when Charon sees a mark on Orpheus. So he remembers, what did Prometheus tell me? Okay, I've got to protect this man. So Orpheus is the one that stays in the boat, the other one gets RIP. But he carries on his journey. In the underworld, Eurydice and Caeneus are bonding. They escape this god-awful party and have a little cigarette break together, even though they can't taste or feel anything. They want to feel like normal humans still. And we learn that the woman that confronted Caeneus is an Amazon through Eurydice. And she's like, how do you know one? And he's like, I was one. He used to be a woman. So it does seem like this was the reason that his mum betrayed him and his people killed him, which is just horrific. They're having a really cute intimate moment. They're talking about dating in the afterlife. And then this is broken up when they see officers chasing someone. We flash up to the mortal world where we've got Zeus and Dionysus. And Zeus is finally willing to give Dionysus a promotion and give him more power. So he's letting him in on his plan of how he's going to regain control, which basically means torturing humankind. He starts to mention natural disasters, and he thinks that he can trust Dionysus. Dionysus almost confesses to what he's done with letting the mortal into the underworld, and then hesitates and doesn't. Back in the underworld, it looks like the officers were chasing the missing soul, e.g. Nax, and they finally found him and they capture him and take him down to this underground thing. Of course, Caeneus and Eurydice are still following them. And what do they find heading down here? All the people that had supposedly passed on to another life through the frame, looking very withered and dried. Cliffhanger. End. So, it wasn't a great episode, but it was a good ending, good twist. Now, let's get into the real mythology behind it. Okay, so unfortunately we're off to a bit of a rough start because there isn't really an instance where Zeus lines up all of his servants and shoots them for fun like that. Does kind of happen in the Odyssey, to be fair. He does kill all of like his female servants because he thinks that, well, they have been having affairs with all of the male suitors that have been there. He also kills all of them. So like, it's generally inspired by Greek mythology, but not specific to Zeus. Zeus probably would do something like that, so I'm not angry about it. The point of Prometheus having a mark and Orpheus having a mark and all being linked by this prophecy. Unfortunately, no. Like I said before, I think in my other episodes, there weren't things like prophecies like this specifically for each person, and Prometheus isn't known for having a specific mark to single him out. And unfortunately, no, he did not have a relationship with Charon. They would have never, like, crossed paths. But, yeah. That said, look, they've never crossed paths in Greek mythology. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It could be one we've never found. But there's no origin story to Charon becoming the ferryman to the underworld, which is accurate. So that aspect of his character, completely true to form. He is the person that will be in the boat bringing the deceased along the River Styx, like we see him do later on with Orpheus. But there's no origin story in Greek mythology, so I like that they've used it to embellish and fill that void. Unfortunately, no, the entrance to the underworld was not via a massive like dumpster. What is it? Bin, like garbage can, a giant one. I can't think what the word is now. Generally, the entrance is like the River Styx, like we see, or caves are like dark entrances are often connected to the underworld. For example, Cape Tainaron in the Peloponnese is often considered to be one of the entrances to the underworld. Lake Avernus in Italy, which is a volcanic crater, and Necromation, which is basically the home of an oracle in the Greek world, and this could be considered a portal to the underworld. no bins. But bins are pretty dark places, so in theory it could be. It's a funny twist, it makes sense because they did the whole challenge previously in a bar that it's just fitting for the series for the bin. I like it as a choice. It's not accurate, but hey. Again, the parent that accompanies Orpheus to try and regain their son, I can't think of a Greek myth specifically that it's referencing. I'm not really sure why he's there. I guess it's just somebody that he has to fight to push off the boat. I don't know, I'm a bit stumped with that one. Comment down below if you do know. And like, there is no one that Orpheus travels with that he has to fight to get to the underworld. Like I said in the previous video, like, he does woo them over with his musical abilities, and this basically is what pays his fare, because if we go back, Eurydice can't pass through because she doesn't have the coin because Orpheus took it. Orpheus obviously doesn't have a coin to give either because he's not really dead. So he does this via music, and then Charon lets him pass on the river. So, and it's never explicitly stated that it's like one soul at a time, like he says. I don't know. But yes, you do have to cross the River Styx in order to get to the underworld. And yes, you are transported in a little boat by Charon, the ferryman. And yeah, you have to pay a price, like I said, which is usually like an obol, is ancient Greek money. Traditionally, once you pass, you cannot come back. That is it. Okay, so then the Scylla being mentioned. Like, literally nothing comes of it other than saying that there is a monster in the river and it is the Scylla. Typically did not abode in the River Styx, but was a real ancient Greek monster. Famously appears in Homer's Odyssey. So the origin of the Scylla goes that she was once a very beautiful sea nymph, and then, like everything else when we talk about Greek mythology, she crossed paths with one of the gods, Poseidon, and they hit it off. But his wife, Amphitrite, gets jealous, and then she is turned into this monster. So she's famously described as having multiple heads, 6, sharp teeth, very animal-like features, and then her lower body is like that of like serpent, like snakes going on. So it's quite a lot. It was quite bad. In another version of the myth, again, it's the result of jealousy. She's given the potion by the witch Circe, who is just jealous of her good looks. There's a lot of jealousy going on in the ancient world, and it never ends well. So, traditionally, in stories like Homer's Odyssey, she lives in a different river in the mortal world, and sailors journeying in this area would basically have to make a choice whether to go by her, where she would ultimately kill multiple sailors, or you have to go by the Charybdis? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. It's one of those words I really only read and then never have to say out loud until this moment. So allow me in the comments. Tell me how to pronounce it, I like to learn. And basically if they chose that option, the entire ship would be eaten. This is like a giant, like, mouth, basically. Kind of like a whirlpool scenario in monster form. As an important side note, was also a very beautiful goddess that was punished by one of the men. I think she tried to steal food, so so Zeus punishes her and transforms her into a monster. Okay, Dionysus in this episode. Is this inspired by mythology? There's never like a specific moment where Zeus confides in him and like promotes him like we see here. Like, Dionysus does have power. He is the leader of a very famous cult, the cult of Dionysus. He's kind of given jurisdiction over like wine, fertility, and that kind of thing, but he never becomes like Zeus's confidant to destroy humanity. And then there's like the way he becomes very attached to the cat. So he's not specifically associated with cats. However, he can be associated with feline animals, specifically because he's associated with wine, which is this idea of like wildness and losing control. So he's often depicted with lions and panthers. So there is a possibility that that's kind of what they were referencing. So I kind of like it, maybe. It might be a stretch, I don't know. Caeneus and Eurydice are divers in the underworld. This wasn't a thing, like the frame wasn't a thing. I'm sorry, I feel like this is a really bad episode to watch because there just isn't necessarily a lot to comment on that's inspired by mythology. I feel like more plot that we get, the further away we are from it. But that's fine, like, they had their launch point, they're doing their thing. That said, we're on something now. Hippolyta, the woman who confronts and bullies Caeneus when she's passing through the frame, was a real Amazonian queen. So who were the Amazons? Again, a very real group of people. These were fierce female warriors. Hippolyta, being the queen, appears in one very famous myth. She appears in one of Hercules' 12 labours. These labours were basically set as a punishment for Hercules by the king Eurystheus. Okay, so apologies, this is a whole sidetrack in itself. Why did he have this? Basically, the goddess Hera is jealous of Hercules. Well, not even necessarily jealous. Basically, he is half mortal, half god, because Zeus had an affair, of course. Hera's not happy about that. Doesn't take it out on Zeus, takes it out on Hercules. And she drives him into a fit of madness, which results in him killing his wife, Megara. Meg from the Disney Hercules. Very, very different story. Whole other video on that. You could check that out. To basically make up for this, he goes to the Oracle of Delphi and is like, what do I do to make this better? Because I've just killed someone, and that's not a good thing. And the oracle tells him to go to King Eurystheus and to serve him, and the 12 labours that he has to complete are basically penance for this crime. One of these 12 labours, importantly, involves Hippolyta. See how we got back. So he has to retrieve the magical belt of Hippolyta that was given as a gift to her from Aphrodite. And whoever wears the belt basically becomes irresistibly attractive. Initially, Hippolyta agrees to give it to Hercules, but goes back on this, and war ensues. This is likely due to Hera's interference because she hates Hercules and is trying to stop him from completing these labours. So some variations disagree, like either they come to a truce or he wins. At the end of the day, he gets the girdle or magic belt. She also pops up in the myth of Theseus, where he abducts and then marries her. Don't know if you can call it marrying when you're abducted, but whatever. Another war ensues between the Athenians and the Amazons. You get the gist. Generally, Caeneus and Hippolyta don't really interact, but we can look at the myths and see they were present at some of these battles together, but there's not moments of interaction. So we've got a bit off-piste. But a real mythological figure. We'll take it. Okay, very, very cool. You may remember from the previous episode, I was like, I wonder if they're going down this route with the character of Caeneus. And yes, they are. And it's so cool. So, to recap, if you didn't see that, I mean, you should have seen it. But Caeneus was originally a beautiful mortal woman. And so beautiful, Poseidon falls in love with her. Who doesn't Poseidon fall in love with? But not the point. To protect her, he grants her wish that she wants to become a man, and this will make them stronger. And that's what he does. Caeneus becomes a man, and that's what we kind of see in this. Caeneus wasn't part of the Amazon warriors, but does become a warrior, so I understand why we've gone down this route. I think it's a nice change. I get it. When Dionysus goes into the shop, like the pawn shop, to try and get a watch, he takes away the woman behind the counter, like her ability to speak. This isn't specifically something he could do. However, there is reference to this silence where in like the cult of Dionysus, he was linked to this idea of like ecstasy, losing self-control, and in this trance-like state, the followers would fall silent. So at a stretch, it could be that. I don't know. Cool little side one, they make a joke in reference to the cat, calling him Oedipuss. Oedipuss, very real figure in Greek mythology. Famously, Oedipuss accidentally marries his own mother because he's trying to avoid a prophecy. Okay, so who is Oedipuss? Let's go back. King Laius and his wife Jocasta famously receive a prophecy from the Oracle of Delphi saying that he will be killed by his own son and that this son will marry the mother. So in an attempt to avoid this, they get rid of the son, which is Oedipuss. They leave him on a hilltop to die. But a shepherd basically finds him, rescues him. Interestingly, Oedipuss means something wrong with the foot, which is exactly where they're pinned him, swollen foot, pinned him there, left him there to die, ends up with swollen foot. A side note. When Oedipuss grows up, he hears of a rumour of the fact that he's adopted, so he goes to the Oracle of Delphi for the answer. The Oracle then tells him the same prophecy that they told the father, that he's going to kill his father and marry his mother. So he takes himself away from the shepherds, thinking that might be his mother and father. Thereupon, he's stumbling down a road and encounters an old man. They get into a conflict. He kills the old man. Who is the old man? His real father, the King Laius. Unfazed by this murder, he continues to Thebes, where he was originally from, and he encounters the Sphinx. The Sphinx has plagued the city and gives riddles to the travellers, and whoever solves the riddle can stop the city being plagued by the Sphinx. Oedipuss solves the riddle, and as his prize, he is made king. Who is still queen? Jocasta. He marries Jocasta, his mother. He finds out about this. He's obviously pretty traumatised, gouge out his own eyes. Anyway, doesn't really affect the plot of this episode, but a good reference, you know? Hera then bumps into Zeus and Dionysus and says that she's going to meet up with Perseus, another very real figure from Greek mythology. This is a long Greek myth, so I feel like do you want me to go into detail? Okay, we're going to do a quick summary. Perseus, again, is half mortal. He is born of Zeus and a mortal princess. The king, the father of this princess, receives a prophecy that basically his grandson is going to kill him. So he locks her away in a tower so that she can't get pregnant. But Zeus gets in and is like, another mortal female looking vulnerable? I'ma do that. She gets pregnant. She has the son Perseus. King finds out. He's like, absolutely not. Locks them away in a wooden chest, sends them out to sea. They are rescued by a fisherman and taken to a different island. The king of this island sets him the task, the impossible task, of slaying the monster Medusa. Medusa, again, used to be a mortal woman. I'm pretty sure it was Poseidon again, 100% in the temple of Hera. He does his thing. Hera's unhappy. Maybe it's Athena. Not sure. Unhappy, turns her into a monster. She now has snakes for hair, and if you make eye contact with her, will turn you to stone. Hence, impossible task. However, Perseus is given a reflective shield from Athena, winged sandals from Hermes, a sword from Hephaestus, and the helm of darkness from Hades, which makes him invisible. All of these things combined, he manages to get the head of Medusa. On his way back from doing this mission, he also comes across a beautiful princess, Andromeda, and saves her. She had been chained to a rock and left to be eaten by a sea monster. Like I said, long story, trying to summarise it. He returns with the head and uses it against the king of that island, turns him and his followers into stone, returns, kills the king, prophecy fulfilled. And that is Perseus. But the fact that they say horse with wings connects him to Pegasus. Pegasus and Perseus, no. Pegasus, however, is the offspring of Medusa and Poseidon. So they're not really connected. Maybe you could argue it. Basically, Perseus is born of Medusa as a result of Poseidon. However, Perseus is only created when Medusa is killed, and he basically springs from the guts. And Pegasus? I mean Pegasus, you know what I mean, I'm ill. And Pegasus is a winged horse. After this, Pegasus, the winged horse, becomes associated with Bellerophon, who is tasked with riding the horse to tame the Chimera, another mythological beast. There's a lot going on. So they're kind of connected, but not really in the way that I think it implies. But the vibes of the myths, Perseus and Bellerophon are often conflated as heroes. You know? I don't know if any of that made sense. And then the rest of the episode, again, kind of goes off pieced, because we know the frame doesn't exist and so on. So yeah, I think that is everything then for today. So I'm looking forward to the next episode to see where it goes. There's probably stuff I've missed. Let me know in the comments down below. If not, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.